This week on Jerusalem Dateline, tensions flare between the U.S. and Iran. Where will it lead? And a ceasefire after Israel is bombarded with 700 Gaza rockets in 2 days. Plus, Israel mourns its fallen and then celebrates its birthday. All this and more this week on Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Julie Stahl, filling in for Chris Mitchell, who is on assignment in Iraqi Kurdistan. We'll hear more from Chris in a minute, but first, the war of words between the U.S. and Iran is heating up. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo issued a stern warning on Twitter saying, "The Islamic Republic of Iran has engaged in an escalating series of threatening actions and statements in recent weeks. Any attacks by them or their proxies against U.S. citizens or our interests will be answered with a swift and decisive response." Earlier, the White House decided to deploy an aircraft carrier strike group and a bomber task force to the Persian Gulf to counter Iran. The announcement came just days before the anniversary of President Donald Trump's decision to withdraw America from the Iran nuclear deal. One U.S. official told the Associated Press that Iran could be targeting American troops at land and sea. Pompeo says Iran has threatened many things over the last 2 years.
We have continued to see activity that leads us to believe that there's escalation that may be taking place. And so we're taking all the appropriate actions, both from a security perspective and well as our ability to make sure that the president has a wide range of options in the event that something should actually take place.
Later, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said Iran would no longer keep limits on its enriched uranium and heavy water production as a result of U.S. sanctions. In response, Washington clamped even tighter sanctions on Iran. Joining me now is Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, who's in Iraqi Kurdistan, where he spoke with retired U.S. Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin. Chris, the scenery looks beautiful, but tell us about where you are and why you're there.
I'm here on the Kurdish-Iranian border. The White-Capped Mountain behind me is Iran, just a few miles away. And we're here with the White House Faith Advisory Board on a fact-finding mission to the Kurdish area. We'll talk more about that next week. One of the main things is they're hearing from Kurdish leaders like the Prime Minister, the Interior Minister, and many other local leaders is two dangers they face. First of all, they don't want the U.S. to abandon them and leave the area, and also the threat of Iran. We talked about the threat of Iran with retired General Jerry Boykin and the latest intelligence and why the United States has sent a carrier group to the Persian Gulf. General Boykin, we just had intelligence about the U.S. putting a carrier task force against Iran right now. What's the latest that you know?
Well, first of all, what a great idea. Secondly, the Iranians are reacting to Trump's declaration that the IRGC is a terrorist organization. They have targeted American forces here. They want to carry out some kind of spectacular attack that will kill Americans in retaliation for that declaration.
Right. We're just a few miles from the Iranian border here in Kurdistan. What threat does Iran pose into the general Middle East, Israel, and even the U.S.?
Well, certainly in Israel, they're a huge threat to Israel, not only because of their growing nuclear capabilities, but because they created and continue to support Hezbollah. Secondly, they're a regional threat because they're supporting Bashar al-Assad in Syria, and they are also, funding Hezbollah down in South Lebanon, so they're a regional threat as well.
Yeah. Final question. What changes do you see from President Obama for 8 years and now in the last over 2 years with President Trump, and how should he proceed from here?
Do you think that President Obama would have ever put Abraham Lincoln off the coast of Iran? I don't think so. I think that would never have happened. I see our president today as being a man of courage and a man that understands the American military power, but is willing to use it if necessary.
Right. General Boykin, appreciate your expertise.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
Israel celebrated its 71st Independence Day against the backdrop of those rising tensions with Iran. The festivities began with a gala ceremony in Jerusalem, including a torch lighting ceremony, 12 torches for the 12 tribes of Israel. There were fireworks, too. Later, Israelis danced in the streets in the center of Jerusalem until the early hours of the morning. The next day, they headed to parks for picnics and a classic flyover of the Israel Air Force. A day earlier, Israel honored the memory of its fallen soldiers and terror victims on the heels of a major flare-up of violence from Hamas and Iran's proxy, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, in Gaza. Israel came to a standstill as a 2-minute siren wailed across the country to honor the memory of Israel's fallen.
I was thinking about all the soldiers from the beginning of, the state of Israel up until today who had to fight on the front lines and the home front as well, and the civilians too.
I was praying for the families who've lost somebody, including my own family, and just praying that God should give them comfort.
Speaking at the state ceremony in Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to the most recent threat from Iran after Tehran said it would continue its nuclear program.
We will not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. We will continue to fight those who seek to take our lives, and we will thrust our roots even deeper into the soil of our homeland.
More than 23,000 Israeli and Jewish soldiers and more than 3,100 terror victims have fallen since 1860. About 1 million Israelis were expected to visit cemeteries throughout the day.
It's an amazing place to live, but if you don't appreciate what has been given for this freedom we have, then maybe you don't deserve it.
Just days before Memorial Day, 4 more Israelis were killed when terror groups launched some 700 rockets at southern Israel from the Gaza Strip. But despite the trouble, most Israelis had good things to say about their country.
It's the most amazing country in the world. I believe that redemption will come from here. I think God is as close as he is to the earth here in Israel.
I literally wake up every day and thank God that I found my way here in my late 60s. It is the most amazing place in the world.
That's what I love about Israel, that we never give up. Even if it doesn't work the first time, we try again, and I love it.
As we said, just days before Memorial Day, Israel was under siege from Hamas and the Iranian-backed Palestinian Islamic Jihad. After 2 days of rocket attacks and Israeli responses, Hamas agreed to a ceasefire in exchange for Israel allowing millions of dollars from Qatar into Gaza. It's quiet now, but Islamic Jihad said the flare-up was only training for a summer war. Take a look at how the situation unfolded. Sirens blared, sending Israelis to bomb shelters as Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad launched more than 700 rockets at southern Israel in less than 48 hours.
Those rockets are dangerous. Those rockets can be deadly. Those rockets are being fired by the Hamas towards the civilian population here in Israel.
One rocket landed right here, spraying shrapnel through the window of the house behind me, killing one man who didn't make it to his shelter on time. It's the first time in 5 years that an Israeli civilian was killed in a rocket attack.
And if we take into consideration how many people there are inside the southern part of Israel, in the major cities and in the kibbutzim, and in the local different communities, we're talking about more than 1 million Israelis under the threat of those rockets from the Gaza Strip.
3 other Israelis died after that in separate rocket attacks. More than 150 rockets were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome, but several made direct hits on homes.
Hamas and the PIJ are operating together. They are coordinating their fire, and they have fired massive amounts of rockets at different Israeli cities.
Israel struck back, hitting some 350 terror targets. That included a terrorist responsible for transferring Iranian funds to groups inside Gaza.
Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad are able to smuggle into the Gaza Strip as well as produce substantial amounts of rockets of different calibers capable of striking Israeli civilians. We see Iranian fingerprints mostly in the Gaza Strip, focused on the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, but not limited to. That materializes in money, weapons, logistic support, military training, and of course political guidance.
U.S. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib blamed Israel for what she called unjustly oppressing and targeting Palestinian children and families, while President Trump tweeted out U.S. backing for Israel, saying, "We support Israel 100% in its defense of its citizens." For now, it's quiet. Many think Israel's Memorial Day, Independence Day, and an upcoming international song contest in Tel Aviv put the brakes on Israel's response. But most believe it's just a matter of time before the situation explodes again, and Israel will have to decide if it will take more forceful action. Coming up, what's behind the Gaza flare-up? We'll take a look.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
CBN Israel, standing with Israel and blessing God's people. Join us. Get breaking news from the Holy Land. Witness biblical history uncovered. Learn the true story of Israel through groundbreaking films. Help Holocaust survivors and other Israelis in need. Be part of the redemptive story God is telling through His chosen people. CBN Israel. Together we will stand. Join CBN Israel today.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Protect your sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
For more on what's motivating the attacks from Gaza and where Israel stands at 71, CBN's George Thomas asked former Israeli Ambassador Ido Aharoni for his insights.
Life has returned to normal in southern Israel after hundreds of rockets were fired into Israel from Gaza last weekend. A ceasefire is now in effect, but 4 Israeli civilians were killed in this latest round of violent attacks. Here to talk about that and much more is Ido Aharoni, Global Distinguished Professor at New York University's School of International Relations. Wonderful to have you on the broadcast. So these rocket attacks from Gaza, you know this, they take place on a regular basis. You live in Jerusalem. What's going on here and what's motivating them right now?
I think that nothing really has changed in terms of the Islamist groups. What motivates them is their built-in opposition to our very existence as a state of Israel in that part of the world. For many years, Israelis thought that the conflict was about territory. Unfortunately, the Palestinians declined just about every territorial compromise that was put forth to them by the Americans, by the Israelis, and so on. And so today, most Israelis, I think there's a consensus in the Israeli society that the conflict is more existential than territorial. So this is really the motivation of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, their opposition, ongoing, habitual opposition to Israel's right to exist.
Israel's Memorial Day, a day to commemorate those who've died in war, was this week, Wednesday, and Thursday was a celebratory day, Israel's 71st birthday. Talk a little bit about what this means for those who fought for the country, and specifically Israel turning 71.
So Israel at 71 is actually in a very good place. Geopolitically, we've never had it better. An intimacy with the United States administration, intimacy in the ties with Russia, with China, with India, with Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. We have full peace treaties with Jordan and Egypt. The Arab economic boycott is a forgotten memory. Israeli creativity and Israeli creative minds are welcomed all over the world, and Israel is greatly admired everywhere. We have problems. We have many problems in the region. One of them is the aggression of Iranian-supported groups such as Hezbollah and others. The other is the Iranian aspiration itself to become independently militarily nuclear. And Israel will have to deal with those issues, but I can say that for the generation of my parents, the generation that founded the State of Israel, this is a great moment of satisfaction. We went from 600,000 people in 1948 to 9 million people today, to a projected 17 million people by 2048. Today, Israel is the only country in the region where you can be safely Christian. The only place where the Christian community is growing is in fact the State of Israel. The only place that is granting complete and full freedom of worship in the region is Israel. The only place that is being viewed by Westerners as a place of opportunity where young people are flooding the streets is Israel.
Thank you, Ido. Thank you so much for joining us. Ido Aharoni, Global Distinguished Professor at New York's University School of International Relations.
Up next, the day Israel declared its independence, a day that changed the world.
A historic bond between the Jewish people and the land of Israel cannot be broken.
Now on Blu-ray or DVD, the new CBN documentary special, The Hope, The Rebirth of Israel.
History is knocking on the door. Things are changing.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/Israel The Hope to receive your copy of the CBN documentary special, The Hope, The Rebirth of Israel, for a gift of $10 or more. Now on Blu-ray or DVD.
Once he declares the State of Israel, they're all going to come after us.
Go on an extraordinary journey as Gordon Robertson explores the founding of Israel and meet the heroes who made history.
The United States recognizes the new State of Israel.
The Hope, The Rebirth of Israel can be yours on Blu-ray or DVD for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com/Israel The Hope. Call now.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times best-selling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
71 years ago, a declaration made in a Tel Aviv art gallery changed the world forever. Against overwhelming odds, the fledgling State of Israel not only survived, but grew beyond expectation. CBN's Scott Ross looks back at that moment along with someone who was there.
על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
Here in Independence Hall, David Ben-Gurion declared the birth of the modern State of Israel. For the first time in nearly 2,000 years, the Jewish people had a nation.
He chose the words, "We hereby declare the establishment," it says here, "of a Jewish state in the land of Israel to be known as the State of Israel." This was the birth of a Jewish state. As for all Jews, Ben-Gurion was standing here as the voice of 11 million Jews around the world who had no voice, who had no address, and nowhere to go to.
I spoke with Isaac Dror, who leads the education effort here.
It was promised to us by God. We are the only people in the history of the world that live on the same land, speak in the same language, and believe in the same God more than 3,000 years.
We're in a historic setting here. Where are we? And what happened?
This is the room where the Jewish state of Israel was born 70 years ago. In this tiny room with these same furnitures, a ceremony that lasted 32 minutes and shook the world.
As British rulers left Israel that day, 5 Arab armies invaded.
So it's like when you mix the happiest day for the Jewish people, one of the greatest moments for our nation in modern times, with one of the most dangerous and sad days when Israel was that close to a complete annihilation.
Why this building? Why here? Why Tel Aviv?
This building was simply the safest auditorium in the city of Tel Aviv.
Who were the people that were here?
Most of them people from around Tel Aviv, because they could not invite people from Jerusalem, because Jerusalem was disconnected. Only 350 of them were lucky enough to be squeezed in the room with no air conditioning.
And among the crowd of witnesses was Yael Sharet.
Her father was on the stage here, Moshe Sharet. He was the right hand of Ben Gurion and the kind of the foreign minister of the provisional government of Israel. And when they came to the ceremony, they came with an invitation. And it says here, we are honored to invite you to the ceremony of independence. And then it goes, we ask you to keep it as a secret.
Really?
You don't want thousands of people to swarm the street when you expect an air raid later that day. And then it says the invitation is personal, like come alone. And here you have Mr. Moshe Sharet, who brought his daughter with him. And not only his daughter, but his sister as well. And Moshe Sharet said they will share the same chair.
I met Yael Sharet Medini at her home near Tel Aviv.
Here is my aunt, and this is my forehead. Hopefully there's something behind it, as I say. And we share the chair there, next to the wall.
She told me how just the day before, her father dictated and Yael wrote a draft of the Declaration of Independence.
This is my father's version of the Declaration. The one that he dictated to me, this is my handwriting. This is a photocopy of the original. Yeah. The original is in the archive.
And this took you how long?
I think that I sat there about 3/4 of an hour to an hour.
Yael simply calls herself a handmaiden of history. Well, how old were you?
17 and a half. I wasn't interested in this. I knew that this is what's going to happen from the age of 0, that we are going to have a state and we are rightfully here.
During that time, she and her family lived in New York, where her father would scour the United Nations, convincing countries to support the soon-to-be-born state. Do you remember the event itself, when Ben Gurion stood up and read?
It's epic. It's really epic. It's poetry, actually. The only time I was really moved, I must say, was when the Rabbi Levine made the old age Jewish blessing, Shechianu v'kiyimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
That ancient Jewish prayer, recited on momentous occasions, thanks God who has given us life, sustained us, and allowed us to reach this day.
I'm not religious, but this blessing has an echo of generations.
Did you sing?
Hatikva, yes. And then everybody stood up, and it was the anthem, the national anthem.
The very next day, which was the Sabbath, President Harry Truman became the first world leader to recognize Israel.
The Pentagon and the State Department truly believed that Ben Gurion, the leader of Israel, is leading the world into a new catastrophe. One person, however, thought differently. His name was Harry Truman. He understood something that most of his top advisors and ministers failed to see. This is truly a prophecy being realized.
70 years later, it's clear that Truman was right.
We are faster, better, prettier than ever today. The economy of Israel is doing wonderfully well. They call a startup nation. And now we see Israel standing, and thanks God, together with the Americans, in the spirit of those countries who are leading. Suddenly people understand why we are here.
Scott Ross for CBN in Tel Aviv.
Still ahead, more sights and sounds of Israel's Independence Day and just what Israel means to Israelis.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
by sharing their knowledge
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
and their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
We've talked about the miracle of Israel's independence. Take a look at what Israelis do on Independence Day and what they have to say about their country.
It's not easy here, but it's good here. You live with meaning and purpose and people who care and a feeling of family and connection.
It's never boring here. I mean, we've had very exciting and great 71 years. It's been filled with difficult moments, moments of loss, moments of pain, but also immense moments of joy.
I honestly love it, minus anything political. I think that having family that has fought for this country from before it was established, I think it's a very big deal, and I love to be here.
That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And remember, the God who's watching over Israel and you and me neither slumbers nor sleeps. I'm Julie Stahl. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.